Step 2, of course, is you do want to shift your training. We are not going to repeat. We want our training load to lower. And this is important, but your training load has, I would argue, even higher purpose right now. So as a general rule of thumb, and this is a tough one to say because I'm taking my arms out and I'm grabbing every single athlete under the big umbrella of endurance with all sorts of backgrounds, histories, goals, ambitions, and ability to absorb training, let alone differing capacity of how much training they can actually do. But as a general rule in off-season, we want to infuse intentional recovery. So therefore, we're going to reduce your training load by, rule of thumb, about 30 to 40%. But we want to maintain your rhythm. And so the way to do that is to anchor your week. It's to say, okay, what are these bolts? A little bit like tent pegs in a storm, anchor your week. And you're going to do that with anchor sessions of strength training, as you're going to learn, really, really critical, and also technical work. Okay, some of the areas that are opportunity to develop your technique across the disciplines, whether if you're just a pure runner, you're thinking about posture, form, etc., etc. If you're a triathlete, then you're thinking about all sorts of areas. And this is a really critical component. If I talk about off-season to many athletes, they immediately often, I would even say the majority of people go to, all right, off-season, zone 2, big base miles. Create that foundation. You'll often hear people say, you can't decorate the bathroom until you got the foundation of the house. Well, whenever I hear that, I always think of Mark, one of our athletes. He's a great athlete. He's an age group triathlete. And he consistently for years loved the sport, really committed, wanted to improve. And every single year, well, off season, time to hit base. I'm going to build my foundation. So I used to grind through endless base miles, zone 2, zone 2, zone 2, and only amplified over the course of the last 3, 4, 5 years where zone 2 has become this new, fresh thing that nobody knew about before. I'm on about my 4th cycle of that, by the way, as a coach. Matt, I've got to build my base. Well, guess what? Mark lived on the East Coast. The days are getting shorter. The days are getting colder. It's damp. It's wet. It's going to be snowy. So therefore, so much of his winter months meant hours on the trainer and treadmill. Zone 2, zone 2, zone 2. Next year is going to be my big year. I'm building the foundation, fat utilization, making sure my heart rate never goes over 120, miles and miles and miles. In fact, the total hours were increasing in off-season, far away from his race. But he was keeping it all low, low intensity. Do you know what happened every single year? He would hit the spring, the days would start to get longer, and he was already showing signs of fatigue. Not just physical fatigue, but more mental. The grind was, well, a grind. And so finally, I persuaded him, and he shifted his approach. And I've got to say, he shifted his approach quite bravely. He was willing to try something different. And I asked him to shift his perspective. I said, look, we're not going to do base training, but we are going to do foundational training. What I mean by foundation is I want you to put the foundation in place that's going to get your body ready to go and train very, very hard. That means I'm going to structurally make you very strong. Strength training is important. We're going to try and improve your technique. So we're going to do some terrain management work on the bike. We're actually going to do some postural elements on the run. We're going to try and improve your running capacity. We're going to really focus on drills and technical development in swimming. And we're even going to do a little bit of spicy speed. We're going to infuse that stuff in there so that when you are ready and the spring comes, I want you to be mentally fresh. I want you to be strong, resilient, and ready to absorb the training hours. So it was a shift. It was strength focus, with skill-focused swimming, short but punchy bike sessions. Everything shifted. Do you know what happened for him? Well, he showed up February, March, and he was lighter. His body composition was drastically improved, even though that wasn't a direct focus. He was stronger. Naturally, we've been doing strength training, absolutely committed, a couple of sessions per week. And he was mentally ready to hit the big training loads. He was invigorated. Did he miss his base? No. He'd been accumulating it year on year. Those miles are not wasted. And he is going to continue to accumulate it over the course of the summer months when he does go outside and he has more time to ride. So what does this look like? Swim, bike and run. Let's get into the specifics. I know you want the specifics. Well, how we design our swim sessions, and we'll go through triathlon in order, swim, bike and run here. Swim, we do a lot of technical work where we try and sort out one of the common flaws for triathletes, which is body position, hips lower than shoulders. And we do some technical work and some short interval work to help what it feels like to have a really taut, robust, strong core in the water when 90% of your body weight is displaced. You're swimming with good alignment and you've got good body position in the water. We try and help you get more purchase on the water, where we actually develop drills that you can actually implement to help you feel the water and get some tension on that grip so that you can propel yourself forward. So in other words, you can get further with less effort. And we build in a host of technical work in there. And then to supplement it, we're not doing a bunch of threshold and debilitating sessions, but we are going to do some high speed. I want you to get a development of gears. In other words, that you can shift speeds. And so in order to do that, you need to get very, very comfortable swimming fast without having a loss of form. This isn't hard, it's fast, or fast if you're listening to it as an American. Really, really simple stuff. So this becomes really eye-opening for athletes. Now, of course, you can't do this in a vacuum. You need to have some feedback, you need to have some round tables, and we're going to talk about how we develop that later in this show. On the bike, what do? Well, by definition, many people are coming inside in off-season. You're not going to be spending, for most people, miles and miles and miles, hours and hours and hours outside. If you can, well, it should be fun stuff. It could be snow mountain biking, it could be regular mountain biking, it could be road biking if you happen to live in a nice area, but that should be soul-filling. That should be fun. Many people tend to spend more hours in the trainer, and that's a venue where it's almost like bike school. And what we're looking to do is to teach you the basics when we're not chasing cardiovascular conditioning, teach you the basics where in the coming months, and I want you to listen to this carefully, you can get more speed for the same effort that you put in. How do you do that? By becoming a better craftsman on the bike. In other words, we try and teach you some of the tools, some of the skills that enable you to manage terrain better, whether it is cresting over hills, climbing, descending, or of course, headwinds and tailwinds. How do you get more speed return for whatever fitness you develop? This is the time that you can really focus on the fundamentals. The other types of sessions that we tend to do is just putting a little pinch in of very, very high intensity work. This is where we do drive the training of the cardiovascular system. VO2 max work, short, very hard, high intensity intervals. What about my base training? Don't worry, you are going to accumulate many miles, but we do short, sharp shocks of work. We're looking to raise your potential ceiling here, and we do it about once a week. Very, very high intensity training. Once again, it's way easier to do it not in a vacuum isolated. It's much more fun to do it when you're a part of a team. And then finally, we also have one more technical development. Now, this is done on the trainer as well, but can you become a climbing pro? Can you really understand how to turn those hills from, oh my goodness, hill, oh my goodness me, it's just a hill, I just need to survive, into, wow, it's a hill, it's an opportunity, it's fun, and I'm going to be able to navigate this using my tools in my toolkit. When the only way to develop those tools is to practice. And the only ways to learn is to be coached. That's why we've invested so much in our video-based coaching, so that we can teach you to become a climbing pro. Really important. And then finally, the third component, running. What do we do on running? Well, there's a lot of work on posture. So many people end up running like they're a sack of potatoes. But we actually try and connect the upper body and good posture to what's happening downstairs with the legs. We also want to build real tissue resilience, because one of the ways that runners and triathletes get undone is through consistent overuse, musculoskeletal and tissue injuries. And we want to stamp that out. We want to reduce the likelihood of injuries over the course of the coming season. So we don't just send you out on these long, slow distance where your form is declining, your muscular load is increasing, and you end up getting injured too much. We want to build your cardiovascular conditioning. So we want to build your durability. And the best way to do that is by frequent, short intervals of running. Now, here's the mindset when you're doing this. And I think this is very, very important and very helpful. Over the course of off-season, I really encourage athletes not to chase fitness on their run. At least in the classic way. Don't chase fitness. Okay, that's just a mindset thing. Instead, chase tissue resilience. So here's another way to say this. When you're running in off-season, you're not trying to drive cardiovascular conditioning, heart, lungs, delivery of oxygen, etc. to the tissue. Instead, train the periphery. Alrighty, train the periphery. That's your tendons, muscles, ligaments. We're not trying to improve our fitness. We're not trying to increase our running speed. We're trying to prepare the body to absorb the looming hard work. When you do that successfully, you're more durable, you're more resilient, and you have a greater capacity to absorb the training that you want to do to actually get you race ready in the months ahead. It's a critical component. So here's how we do it at Purple Patch. Number one, we have pre-prioritized sessions. The key workouts, the primary. Now this is built first with 2 strength training sessions a week. That's your bullseye. Lifting very real weight training relative to yourself and your starting point. This is the bullseye. This is what we wrap everything else around. So in off-season, everybody, and I mean everybody, does strength training. Alrighty? Period. Boom. Lock it in. Then we build it around and say, what are the technical sessions that we're going to do? And that could be a high-intensity bike. That could be terrain management on the bike. That could be some strides-based overspeed work on the run. That could be some short interval speed in swimming, but also the technical elements. You know, 2, 3, 4 of those over the course of the week, and that might be all you do in off-season. So we start to have prioritization. And then for people that want more, well, it's a little bit like Amazon Packfiller, but really, really valuable and important stuff, but you build it up. So there's always a capacity to increase, but everybody is locked in with the priority workouts. Very, very simple and, of course, highly flexible. If you've got holiday parties, you can scale down. If you've got some travel for Thanksgiving, you can scale it down, etc., etc. In support of those training, you have real coaching via video because we want to have feedback loops. And so we coach people. We don't prescribe training sessions. We coach people. Repeat, repeat, repeat with live feedback. Really, really important. And beyond the video coaching then, we want to integrate what we call our hub, which is our custom online community, so that we can have roundtables, discussions, feedback from coaches, Q&A. What am I doing well? What am I not doing so well? So that people can feel like they're almost in school. They're developing the habits and practices and making sure that all of this has massive flex. Every single session is scalable. You might only do a 20-minute run. You might be able to do 50 minutes. But making sure that these can ebb and flow with life. Because remember what we talked about. We want your training load to decrease. We want to ensure that this is fun and it frees up capacity, but also the ability for you to physiologically recover and mentally refresh. Really, really important if you want to be successful next year. And so, yes, let's point out there is value to doing Zone 2 training. Doubtless, I'm not against Zone 2. It is a bedrock of athlete development. You will benefit from that. But the truth is that it doesn't fit into life and most people's schedule in the middle of winter, particularly if you're time-starved. And so when committing to traditional base level type training, it leaves athletes flat, fatigued, mentally just out of it. And instead, this approach really builds your strength, your durability, and your efficiency, so that every mile that you log next year, including plenty of Zone 2, you're going to accelerate. We're creating a workable, integrated solution that ramps up your consistency. And I tell you what, I have never, ever, in all of my years, when we're working with athletes that are consistent, and this is a way to unlock that magic word consistently, never seen an athlete that has had an issue with their base. And so over the course of this step, I'd encourage you, choose a discipline. Sharpen technically what you want to do, really focus on it, and dedicate 1 to 2 sessions just purely to this skill. And that's going to be an opportunity of a strength or shore up a weakness, whatever it is, but it's critical.